I agree with him.
So for general purposes, you always want to ask the AI, where did you get these information from, right? And then you want to verify if that's a solid source. Perplexity does this really well. So perplexity.ai, it's another AI tool which you could try out for free. They're really good for researching, better than ChatGPT and Claude. In my own day-to-day, I use that as my primary research tool, even though I use Claude Code a lot. But that's one way. And then obviously, you want to continue to ask more questions. And the biggest mistake too when it comes to using AI is you don't want to have too long of a session. And what's a session? A session is like when you're doing the basic chat model of asking a question and then getting answers from AI. You don't want to have a full-blown conversations where you have to scroll all the way up to see where's the start of your conversation. That's called hallucinations. I think that's part of the vocabulary that you see on the paper. What that means is that sometimes the AI is grabbing so much information that the important stuff get left out. So you want to be careful when using AI. And what I would recommend in that regard is split it into multiple sessions. And I like to break it down by research, plan, and execute. So what are you researching? What are you planning to do? And then now you're actually doing whatever it is that you're trying to build, which most of the time, I stay in the planning phase because researching is relatively fast and executing is also relatively fast. But then when it comes to planning, you want to be super thorough so then you have a better understanding of what you just built as opposed to let AI take over and they could make a ton of mistakes.
Are you organizing all those in projects, or are you just the research, the planning, and those are separate projects, or?
Yeah, so this is a little bit more advanced, but I would use Perplexity as research, and everything is done in one kind of Claude code. I would use Claude for planning, and then I would use model for executing just because of the token usage. So that's a little bit more advanced, though.
Can I ask the audience a question?
What was that?
Can I ask the audience a question?
Yeah.
Looking out here in the audience, what do you want to use AI to do in your real estate business? Yes.
So, like the audience said, I started using AI over a year ago. I use Copilot from Microsoft, and there's so many of those. And what I did was, first thing is, I do manage properties, buy and hold. I said, what is taking time? I looked at my business process. What is taking time, as you mentioned, repetitive tasks and so on. And then I started with a very simple goal. Whenever I'm advertising my property, I want a very enticing listing on any of the websites, right? So I give the address, I find some basic information, and I give it to AI. And it's like asking a question, writing a prompt, right? Going to the ChatGPT prompt saying, hey, please give me a grid description which helps the audience to understand my property, sitting tens of miles away, looking at the pictures and reading the text. Also look at the listings in the area and give me a competitive price. That's what I started with because that saved me a lot of time. The second thing I did was I started writing agenting AI. So basically, let's say you have a property, you write down, this gentleman has published a great, I attended his session in Jersey, in Atlantic City. He's written a lot of prompts and he's shared with everybody. Please take a look at that, they're very good. You can take the description and it will analyze it for you within 30 seconds. Are you going to make money or not, right? What is the best buy price? Asking some very silly questions, but very relevant questions whenever you're looking at an opportunity, right? So that's how I started. Okay, now I'll hand it back to the experts.
Awesome. So, go ahead. You had a question?
I've been messing with AI for about 4 months. And as I understand it, please correct me if I'm wrong, if there's any Swiss cheese my logic, if you will. But as I understand it, there's Claude, there's ChatGPT, there's Gemini, and then there's Perplexity. I use Gemini for image creation, creative work. I use ChatGPT for general conversation, and I use Claude for document and then document integration. I recently put a contract, an owner-held mortgage, and a promissory note into Claude, and it coordinated the documents so that they were consistent amongst each other. Am I doing it right? Is there something that you guys would suggest? Where does Perplexity fit into this whole thing? Thank you.
I use Perplexity, just like he mentioned, for research. Okay, I find that to be one of the best tools to use in that case.
Oh. I think you're doing a good job of utilizing all those 4 tools. It's just a matter of like don't overthink it, right? Because now you're juggling 4 different tools, and sometimes this is my mistake too. I use AI so much that it sways me away from the higher dollar value tasks, right? Which is sales, marketing, those type of things. And I was like, I like to build stuff. And then you get so bogged down into, oh, I like this. Maybe you always see the symbol of loading. It's like, I want to see it finish. I want to see it finish, right? So that happens a lot. And I try to stop doing that. I try to limit the AI because of those many tools. The thing is with Gemini, you could connect most of it through Claude, through connectors, MCP, APIs. So those are in the vocabulary as well. And that is much easier than me jumping off to, okay, what would Gemini say versus what Claude say? I like to combine them, all of them together.
So you can teach AI to communicate with among the different platforms?
Correct, yes. So with them, if I show you my Claude code, if I say, hey, research me a market, then it would trigger Perplexity on the spot. Or, hey, after you've done your research, now upload it into Google Docs. Okay, now it automatically, I don't need Gemini for that, so everything is done into one. And then if I want to create some sort of websites or back-end coding, Codec is already connected, which is ChatGPT, and then that'll create on its own as well. All automatic, but the way that you've done it, it's really good. I would just use one because they all connect to each other somehow, especially Claude with all the other stuff. But that would what I would recommend. Just focus on what is the right thing and just let AI probably do most of the work, but then obviously you want to verify.
One more tip that I have is you don't necessarily need to create the prompt. You can ask the ChatGPT or Claude to create the prompt for you. Just say, hey, I need a prompt for this, and it'll create something amazing that you're like, oh, wow. And it's easier to edit something that was already created than try to think of it on your own. So a lot of times I'll just ask it to create the prompt that I need and then edit whatever else I need to change, or if it's already good, then I'll just use that one.
There's this thing in Claude that's called hooks. And what hooks does is more of a restriction of what you do with the AI. So for example, if I say make this document better, the hook, I create the hook myself, and it says, okay, what do you mean by creating better? Do you mean longer? Do you mean summarizing it? Do you mean additional words? How many words? So then now it breaks it down even further as opposed to have some basic prompt that I just created out of nowhere, and obviously it doesn't know what you mean. You know what you mean, but they don't know what you mean.
So it helps you define better.
Correct.
So the hooks trigger it to ask you clarifying questions? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Ah. Okay.
And when it comes to prompting, and we did discuss this in our AI subgroup, is I like to think of it in this acronym, CRIT. So C means context, right? What is the background in which you're trying to explain to the AI? R is a role. What do you want the AI to be as a world-class investor, as a world-class researcher, or like an intern? I don't know, right? So what is the role? I is for interview. What is the questions that you're trying to ask the AI or have the AI answer? And then the last one is task. What is, towards the end, what do you want the AI to deliver? What are the deliverables that you want the AI to give you? So those are like a good rule of thumb that I do for my prompting. And obviously you could talk using Whisper and that's why I highly recommend it. You could say more than what you type, and that is super helpful, at least for me in my day-to-day.
But Aldo, I think he would also like to use skills because he has a repetitive task that he does on a steady daily basis.
What skills?
So skills,
No,
yeah,
that's all right.
absolutely. So skills, so skills is a set of instructions in what's called a markdown file. And it's basically like an if and then statement. Hey, if this happened, then do this. And typically within a skill, you could have multiple different instructions based on what you want to do. And those skills can be triggered on a scheduled basis, meaning that, hey, at 8 a.m., scrap the news of what's going on in the world. So by 9:30, I know which stocks that I want to invest in.
So that last conversation that you used to create the document, just say, hey, I would like to turn this into a skill. It'll automatically know